In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create this nice legend here, which is exactly the same as a standard legend for the donut chart. But then if we click on it, you can see instead of a strike through, we create this faded effect. And next, this of course also works very nicely for a bar chart. So if I just refresh this, you can see here now. So now I change it to a bar chart. And then here, if I click on this, we have created basically a donut chart type of legend for a bar chart with also the fade in and the fade out effect, or at least the shade and unshade effect. So let's start to explore how we can do this. So let's start to explore how to change the legend effect to shade and unshade instead of a strike through in Chart.js. So to do this, we're going to go to chartjs3.com getting started, or this specific link here, to grab our default code. So I'm going to copy this entire code. And if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So I'm going to paste it in here, and then once I did it, I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to put that in there, save this and refresh, and there we are. So now we have a basic bar chart. I will convert this into a donut chart, and well, to do that, let's go here. We can just say here we can hide this, the scales. We don't need this, but I will leave it as it is, because the legend that we will create will be also applicable for a bar chart. I'm going to show you later on, once we're done, how so. Next, I want to make sure that this is 400. If I refresh this, alright, so this is fine. Let's convert this now into a donut chart. Save that, refresh, and there we are. So now we have this, and what we want to do here is basically remove this strike through effect. To do that, we need to create basically, or generate a legend. And in Chartjs 2, you have the feature called generateLegend. But in Chartjs 3, they changed that term and they migrated it into a generateLabels, because you will put it already in the legend object, which makes sense. So they thought that's probably a more better wording. Anyway, so we're going to work on this, and what we're going to do here is then the following. We're going to say here plugins, and we're going to say here legend, and then here we're going to work on labels. And in the labels, this is what we want. We want to here generate our own labels. So we're going to say generate labels instead of generate legend. Of course, because legend, we're already in the legend object. So redundancy. And alright, what we're going to do here then, because this is a callback feature, let's say a chart, and once we did this, we're going to use a arrow function expression here, and then what I want to do here, a console log, and then just show you what is going on, or what is this exactly. If I refresh here, open up developer tab, you would see here now, this is now loading, and you might notice the legend is now gone, or is disappearing. Why? Basically here we need to return a value. If we don't return anything, it returns blank, which makes sense because there's nothing to return. So what happened here, you can see a lot of information, and what we basically need here is really the data information here. So if we're going to search here for the data, we have to go all down here to the data object. Here in the data, and then you can find here, for example, our data labels, and of course our data sets where we need the background color and the border color. So let's start and work on this. So the first thing what I want to do here is we're going to create a return value here. We want to return, and what we're going to return will be basically a array map with all these values, because we want to have not only one item, but we want to have every element of this index should be shown here. So basically we need 7 items here. So with the array map, we can basically loop through all of these values here. So let's start to make at least one item so we have a clear visual of what we're going to do. So first of all, what I want is the labels here. So I'm going to say return, and then what we're going to return is the following. I'm going to say here a chart dot data dot labels. And how did I get that? Well, we can hover over here, and if I do nothing, you can see here data.labels, and our starting point was the chart. So there we are, and then we're going to say a dot map, because this is a array that we want to build. Then in here, what I want to do now is get certain values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an enter here, another enter. And the reason I'm doing this, normally it's not necessary, but the reason I'm doing this, I want to make it very clear how many parentheses I'm using, because it will be very tricky if you see too many parentheses next to each other. So what we're going to do now is the following. I want to grab two items. First of all, I want to grab the label argument, or basically the argument, and the next one is the index. So the index is just the index number, and then the label argument is basically our positioning here, chart.data_labels, which is this specific item here, but it will go loop through individually because of the map array functionality. So if I just do this only, we're going to return this. We have here already something. Then of course what we need first, of course, is the arrow function expression here again, because it's a callback. And here, pay attention, we're going to put in here parentheses and then curly braces and then enter. So if you look carefully, we have 1, 2, and 3 parentheses here. So this is the reason why I put in the enter, so it's very clear to see. So next thing what I want to do here now is start to show certain values. And the most important value for us right now is just to get here the text. And the text will be our label here. If I save this now, it will return this label, and if I refresh, you will see here now, it loops through the entire labels, or every label, because of the map array method. So the next thing what we need to do here is, of course, change the background color and the border color, and that's what we need to grab basically in here. So if we scroll down here, we go back to data, our data object. Here, now instead of labels, we want to go to the data sets, and then we need to grab here the index number. Oh, sorry, no, not there, but let's say, for example, for the background color, we have this index number here. Luckily, we already have an index variable here, so that would mean that we can now start to work on this. So how do we do this? Well, basically, we're going to say, first of all, fill style, which is a command in Canvas to change a shape, a background color, and basically, or we fill up the entire shape with a color. In this case, we're going to shape this or get the color of this red with a light background color item that is in here. So that's what we're going to do now. So to do this, I'm going to say chart.data.datasets, and then here I'm going to use index 0 because we only have one data set here. So index 0, and then I'm going to say a dot, and I'm going to get here the background color, capital C, and then here, what I'm going to put in here, if you put in the number, well, let's put in the number 0, save this, and refresh. You can see here now they become all light red, or background color of red. But if I get the index here, you will have this and loop through all of these items individually. There we are. So if you understand this, you probably also understand how we're going to do the final one, which is the border color. So I'm going to put in here enter, and then here, instead of a fill, we're going to say a stroke style. Why? In Canvas, the border lines is called a stroke. Why? Because think about Canvas, if you really understand what the word canvas means, it's basically like a blank painting, a white sheet of painting that you can start to paint on. That would mean if you have a brush, because you're going to paint with a brush, use a brush stroke, or basically if you make a line with a brush, we call it a brush stroke. So that's why we have here stroke style, referring to the border, because a paintbrush line is what we call brush stroke. So in here, then enough about the history of the word. So then in here, we're going to change this, but all we're going to do here, because it's the same methodology and the same position, except it is now border color. So if I save this now, refresh, there we are, we have all of these border lines and the colors here all matching. But of course, if I click on this, you can see here just nothing happens. So at least it gives only a console log, but I want to hide and show this as well. So I need to create this functionality. And then what we're going to do now, we're going to start focus on something very important. Oh, basically here what we should do as well, I guess that is the one that we're going to eventually adjust. This is what we call the font color. So this one is in the generateLabels built in as a command. So we can use this instantly. Because this is not an official term for the font, for coloring a font in the canvas. So that's very important. But here, what I'm going to do here just for now, because the default color is hashtag 666. So if I save this, there you can see here, nothing really happens. That's it. So what we have to do here is to figure out how we can change this color the moment we click on it. So now we will work on this later on, because now what I want to do here is start building what we call the click effect. So I'm going to say here on click just below the legend, because it's a legend feature. Then here I'm going to say here, well, we can say here click as a parameter because it's our argument, because it's an event. And I'm going to say here the legend item, comma legend. So we need these three here, just in this order. That's essential. So then what I'm going to do now is, well, let me just show you first of all what is the click. Console log here, and then before I even continue on, because I had this curly braces here, a arrow function expression, because it's a callback feature that is built into Chartjs. That's why also capital C for the click. So it's a built-in feature. So what we're going to do here, first of all, I want to say here click. Let's show what is click here. Refresh. If I do this and then I click on this, you can see now it recognizes that we have clicked on this. So that's the first thing. Once it recognizes this, we can now start to continue on with the next item, is the legend item. Save this, refresh. You can see if I click on this, now I click on the legend item and you recognize all of these items here. Maybe an exception of the text align, which is a default, so that's why it leaves it undefined, so it doesn't matter, because the default value will be set, will be used if we don't define anything. But you can recognize here everything else. We have here the font color, the stroke style, the fill style. That is basically our legend that we have generated here with the generateLabel callback feature. So what is important here is basically understanding on which item we have clicked, but probably it will be more important once we have this here. So I'm going to say here, save that, refresh, and let's click on one again. We have here active charts. Let's see, do we have anything here that shows it? Well, not really. So what I want to do here then is basically this, because this was a very important one. If I'm going to copy this, and then later on I'm going to show you exactly what is really the important part of the legend. So when we click on this, we get here the specific text, which is Thursday. So what I want to do now here, which is basically the legend, remember that's this one here, line 87, as you can see here. Here in the legend, if you go down here, what I want to go here now is to chart, and then I'll go to data. Where are we? That's down here, sorry. Should be down here, there you are, the data object. Click on this. And then what I really want to do here is basically in here, the labels. I have here the entire array. But remember, when we click on it, the legend item shows us the specific item, for example, Thursday. So what we can do is we can say, search in this array in which index number the text was, which was Thursday. When we click on it, as you can see here below, text equals Thursday. If we have this, we can then start to grab the index number, and that index number will be very important for us later on, so we can specifically indicate the text that needs to be with a shade or unshade. Basically also hide and unhide. That's basically what we have to do here. So we have to build this click functionality. So if I do here just legend text, and what I want to do here as well is to grab here the legend label. Chart.data.labels. So remember those two. So legend this and then chart.data.labels. Save that. Refresh. Now if I click on it, alright, chart, legend item, and then here we have the chart.data. Let's see, why is it giving us a error here? What is this type? Undefined. Alright, so I guess I am probably not exactly on the right location. Let's do this again. Save that, refresh, click, click here. Alright, let me double check again. We are in undefined. So why am I in undefined? Let me double check. Alright, that is, I realize now we're not in the legend item. This should be, if I'm not mistaken, this one, and I'm just exactly at the opposite. Am I correct? There we are. Thursday, so that shows the value. So sorry, I had this one and I thought I had them in the correct order, but I have them in the opposite order here below. So if I just cut this out, put it up, and this one here back, chart.data.labels, we should now have the expected values. Click on this, there you are. We get here the value, and then we get here the item. So if I look here now, if I do this dot index of, which is a array method to help us search for a certain item. So if I type in here, let me just type in here Thursday, exactly identical like this, and save this, click, and then click here on Thursday, you can see here it's index number 3, but if I click this, because it's hard-coded, it is number 3. So if I just replace the hard-coded text with our soft-coded one, we should get here now the index matching with that day. Alright, so now we have this, and this is very important because now we can start to use the following functionality, which is a built-in functionality in Chart.js, which is legend.chart, and then we're going to say toggle data visibility. And then for that, well, if I do 0 and save this, and then what I need to do as well is I have to say here the update. I need to update this, of course. Dot, and then we say here update. Save this. If I refresh, and if I now click on anything, only the red one will be hide and show. Why? Because we have this hard-coded, but of course we get now the soft-coded information. Here we can just say index equal constant index equals this, and then here semicolon, we have this index, put it in there, save that, and refresh. Click, there we are, click, click, click. And you can see once we click on each of these items, they gradually disappear. However, the strike through is now not yet active. I don't want to use a strike through, I want to make this like faded in or faded out. So to do this, let's scroll down here, and we have to work on this one more time because we need to focus on this here. But now what we have to do is we have to get this information here, and what I want to show you here just before I even do anything else, if I do a console log here, you will see that this will show us a certain value, true or false. Save this, refresh, click, and you can see here, oh, number 90 is that legend index toggle visibility. Alright, so for some reason this doesn't show. Oh, of course, maybe I need to change. Well, I guess I was expecting here to show a value, but surprisingly enough, it doesn't want to. Doesn't matter. Later on, we'll be working on that. Alright, so what we're going to do next is, well, let me just remove this console log here. Let's focus on this here. And then what we're going to do here is basically create what we call a visibility or a variable that will indicate if we are hidden or showing. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here enter, and I'm going to say here let, and then we just say this visibility. And this will eventually become dynamic, so we can later on change this. So what I'm going to say here, this will be a array, but it's blank. Why? I want to eventually, like what we did here is an array, I want to make this also an array, only make it faded out the moment we click on one of these items. So what I'm going to do here now is the following. We'll create a for loop, for, and then say let I equals 0, and then well, we can put that there, that's fine. And then we say here we want to keep on looping I as long as we get a X amount of labels. So in this case, well, labels or background color, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to say here dot, but what I want here is not the data set, I want to just have the labels. And what I'm going to grab here is not the label, but I will say the labels length dot length, because I will need to know the array of the labels. So if I do this, then we can say I++, and then here we will do something. So right now I'll just leave this and put a comma here. And oh, sorry, not a comma, I guess it should be a semicolon. If I save this, refresh, alright, we have now this, and so we have all of this. What I want to do here is basically an if statement, and this if statement will say the following: if it is visible, or basically this is what I want to show is the toggle data but I guess we don't need toggle data. We need another command, and this command is called chart.getDataVisibility. And this is a built-in functionality. So if I do here I, and then just do a console log, we can see here now what's going to happen. Save this, refresh. So you can see here 7 times true, but now if I click on this, what is happening? It will be true first for Monday, and then it will be for Tuesday, it will be set on false because it's hidden. If I do this again, the first 2 items will be false. As you can see here, this is basically looping through it, but we need to create now an array with this. So this is why we have this array. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to say here visibility dot push method. So you should know what a push method is. It's basically pushing a value into the array. So if you want to understand it, I have videos about how to use push method in Chartjs. Just make sure you check them on YouTube. You can Google them to find them. All right. So what we have here is next. So we have this now. So we're going to push all of this, and then finally, what we could do here, I can just do a console log and just say visibility, just to see what we have. Or maybe even console table. That is a bit more easier to read, by the way. Save that, refresh, and there you are. It loads multiple times, but if I click on this, it should adjust as well. And what you see here, it adjusts to true, true, false, which is Wednesday. That's correct. So this one was false. There we are. So what I want to do next is then the following. I'm going to grab this, or at least here, once we have this, what I want to do here, instead of this only, I want to have here now a if statement. And this if statement, instead of this, I don't want to even push this. What I want to do here, a if statement, then I'm going to say the if statement if this equals strict true. In that case, I want to visibility push. Well, let's remove this. I don't want to push true or false. I just want to push the value. So if it's set on true, then we should have this color. And then once we did that, and else if it's basically false, I want to have a different color. And the different color here should be one with an alpha level color. So if you want to know what's the alpha level color of this one, well, I was googling this, I had this prepared. We're going to say here it's also a string RGBA, and then here we could do 102 comma 102 comma 102 comma 0. Let's see, what is that? 0.5. Let's say 50% transparency. So if you want to say I want to convert this one of as well, we can do here say 1. We save this, and then this here needs to be set in there. And of course here we're going to use the index number, and for that we have this index here because we have an array right now, and this array will show nicely. Save this, refresh. All right, so you can see here now this, and then if I click on this, look at that. Now it is slightly faded design, but if you click on it, it will go back into its original visibility. And that's basically how you can create a legend here with this fade in and fade out. Next, what I want to show you here, because this here is basically the official legend for the donut chart, but we could use this as well for our bar chart. So let me show you here. Normally a bar chart is based on data sets, but in this case, because we built this, it created this unique legend. In this case, it will also work individually here, and if I click on this as well, it will show all the values and fade in or fade out accordingly. And that's basically how you can create these kind of features. So if you enjoyed this video, I will have another video here. It will pop up on the screen right now, which will basically does the same thing, except instead of having it for every individual bar or for the donut chart, what you're going to do then is specifically for the data sets. It will be as well. So you have only one data set, which is the original shape specifically for the bar chart and line chart, which is very common. So let's start. So if you're interested in that one, definitely click here on the screen. You will find it right now.